Are you tired of sifting through endless health advice that promises quick fixes but delivers nothing but frustration? Welcome to the Anti-Macro Podcast, the go-to place for scientifically backed yet digestible health and fitness wisdom without the fads or gimmicks. Whether you're looking to ditch chronic dieting, optimize your hormone and gut health, or simply find balance in your wellness journey, you're in the right place. I'm Coach Diana Lee, your no-nonsense guide to transforming your health and mindset for the better. Each episode, I'll dive into topics ranging from nutrition basics to debunking common myths to cutting-edge functional health insights, sometimes featuring guest experts in the space. Get ready to learn, grow, and take actionable steps toward a healthier and happier you. So grab your favorite beverage, kick back, and let's dive in. Most people think hiring a coach just means getting your macros and a workout program. And to be fair, there are plenty of coaches out there who deliver exactly this and nothing more. To be frank with you, you don't really need a coach for these things. You can Google how to calculate your macros. You can download MyFitnessPal or whatever calorie counting app you prefer. There are loads of really effective training programs that are accessible from an app for a small monthly fee. Then all you have to do is do the thing. Track your food, hit your macros, do the training program, and boom, you'll be fit and healthy in no time. But if it were really that easy, you wouldn't be here listening to this. You'd already be living in the body and the life that you want. You'd already have the energy, the digestion, the strength, the peace with food that you keep saying you want. Instead, my guess is that you're stuck somewhere. Maybe you nail your macros Monday through Friday, and then the wheels come off on the weekend. Maybe you are white knuckling your way through a deficit for 2 weeks. Then you hit a binge, and then you feel like you've ruined everything. So you just start the process over again. Maybe you show up for the workouts, but you're not progressing. Same weights, same movements, form that you don't feel confident in, and results that just don't seem to match the effort. Or maybe the struggle is even getting yourself to the gym in the first place. You keep saying that you need accountability, but what you're picturing is basically an adult babysitter, someone that you report to so they can be disappointed in you if you don't follow the rules, and you can feel bad about it and then follow the rules. That flavor of accountability, the just tell me what to do and yell at me when I don't do it kind, sounds helpful in theory, but it also keeps you very dependent and also ashamed. It's fueled by fear of being in trouble. So you show up just enough to avoid a scolding, and then when life happens and you miss, the shame spiral starts. You ghost the coaching, you ghost yourself, and then you start looking for new rules somewhere else so you can try to be perfect this time. Here's what I want to do today. I want to peel back the curtain on what coaching actually is, at least the way that I do it, and why it consistently creates transformation that sticks. Not because I hand you the perfect plan and not because I become your accountability police, but because the process itself changes the way that you think, the way that you make decisions, and the way that you live. If you've ever wondered, what would it be like to work with a coach who sees the full picture? Hormones, gut, stress, training, food, my real life, and helps me actually implement the things that matter, then this episode is for you. Let's start with a story, because stories are how we make sense of things. I want to tell you about my client, Lynelle. Now, if you listened to my last episode, you've actually already met her. If you didn't, no worries. Let me give you the quick version here, because it's such a good window into the difference between programming and coaching. Lynelle has been dieting since she was young. She's done a little bit of everything. Weight Watchers, keto with a weight loss clinic, the typical stuff that's super, super rule-based and very attractive because it promises fast results. She always could lose the weight. She's a high-achieving, follow the directions kind of woman. Give her a rule and she will make it work, but only for a little while. Across all of the programs that she's done, the same patterns showed up. First, they weren't sustainable for long periods of time. Adherence was possible in the short term, but eventually she'd fatigue from the rules, fall off, and gain the weight back. Keto was especially hard because, in her words, she is a carb monster, and the idea of doing keto forever was just a hard no for her. Second, the calorie deficits were quite extreme. We're talking 800 to 1200 calories a day at times. That is how you get quick before and after pictures for a marketing page, but it does nothing to build a stable foundation. No one taught her how to eat for maintenance after the diet. No one bothered to build her foundation before she even did the deficit. So, of course, the weight would creep back in, and oftentimes more than before. And then, of course, she blamed herself for not being disciplined enough. Third, none of those programs adjust her habits, her mindsets, and behaviors. She could keep the evening chips and salsa if the chips were keto approved. She could make up for binges by manipulating points later. So nothing really changed. The foods might have changed, but the underlying patterns stayed the same for her. So then when she came to me, she said she wanted to maintain the weight that she had lost on keto, but bring carbs back in and eventually lose a little bit more. Now, here's what I didn't do. I didn't put her back into a deficit. In fact, we didn't approach a calorie deficit until about a full year into coaching almost. Instead, we rebuilt her foundation. That meant looking at her as an entire human, not just calories in and calories out, but sleep quality, stress load, hunger, fullness cues, digestion, movement, environment, and her daily patterns. We addressed why she was binging and implemented coping mechanisms and structure to reduce the frequency and intensity of those episodes. We looked at habits like chips with TV at night and asked, is this serving what you really want? If the answer was no, we created a plan for evenings that actually helped her unwind without setting her up for mindless eating. We built a meal planning routine that made nourishing food her default, not the exception. We looked at her sleep, got a sleep study, discovered mild sleep apnea, and got to work on implementing some strategies to help her with that. Her sleep apnea was affecting her recovery, her hunger hormones, her energy, and her metabolism, but it was never addressed by any other program she had ever done before. We also added movement for her. We added strength training and built a routine around fitting in workouts for her, despite the fact that she is a mom of two very young children and a business owner. We built her metabolism up instead of shrinking her world down always. And guess what? Even before the fat loss phase, she was seeing and feeling results. Her clothes were fitting differently, her energy was up, her mood was steadier, and her confidence was getting higher. Now, the scale wasn't dropping fast, and she'd tell you this herself, that for the first time, she felt like she was building a life that she could actually maintain. And she does actually tell you this herself in the previous episode. So if you want more on her journey, I definitely recommend checking that one out. The big surprise for Lynelle wasn't the workouts or the nutrition tweaks. It was how deeply we went into everything else: habits, mindset, sleep, stress, daily structure, her digestion. The depth of what we did is what made her transformation possible and sustainable. So if you're wondering, okay, but what does this actually look like if I work with you? Then let me walk you through the process a little bit. Not just as a checklist of deliverables like, you're going to get weekly check-ins and messaging access to me and blah, 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 but as a journey with some phases. These phases are how we create change that lasts. So phase one is going to be our discovery and clarity. As a functional health coach, my assessments are deep and detailed. We gather a lot of information. Yes, about your diet history and your current approach to food and training, but also about your lifestyle, your stress load, your sleep, your cycle, your energy, your digestion, your values, your schedule, your preferences, your life responsibilities. I want to know the things about you that light you up and the things that drain you. I want to understand your body's biofeedback. And when appropriate, we'll incorporate labs. So that way we know what's happening under the hood: your thyroid health, iron status, blood sugar markers, cortisol patterns, gut-related markers when relevant. Not every single person necessarily needs labs on day one, but for many of my clients, labs are part of getting a clear map. Now, this is not just collecting data for data's sake. The assessment is about uncovering root causes and clarifying context, because even if your primary goal is weight loss, we have to know whether or not your body is in a state that it's going to cooperate. Gut dysfunction, thyroid issues, chronic stress, these things matter. They affect how your body responds to food and training. They affect your hunger and your cravings. They affect your mood and energy and sleep. So, you can grind your gears for months without this clarity and think that you have a motivation problem, when in reality, your physiology is what needs attention. We also go beyond numbers. I need to understand how you think. What meaning do you attach to the scale? What stories do you tell yourself when you miss a workout or eat something that you label as bad? What is your pattern when stress does hit? Do you skip meals? Do you graze? Do you restrict? Or do you numb out with binging on snacks? Where do you thrive and where do you get stuck? What are the non negotiables that you care about in your life? This could be the date nights that you have with your partner, the travel and getting to explore new cuisines, or maybe some of the comfort foods that you love. Because in order for this to be a successful process, we are likely going to have to make room for certain things that you value within your goals and your process. And through this process, you will learn things about yourself that you didn't know. I can't tell you how often somebody realizes that how their gut feels on a day to day basis is not actually normal, or that maybe their fatigue isn't also normal. It's just something that they've felt for so long and they have normalized, but all of a sudden they're realizing that they're symptoms of dysfunction. Sometimes we also uncover patterns between symptoms and foods through symptom journaling and food journaling. For those of you who are struggling with gut health, it can be actually really difficult to notice trends in your symptoms if you're not sure what to look for. So, by bringing more education around common food triggers and tracking more diligently on how you're feeling throughout the day, you can learn so much more about your body. This kind of learning is empowering because now you no longer feel helpless in your process, but rather you have clear actions that you can take to start feeling better. Phase two is going to be building the plan together. Keyword together. Coaching is often seen as you are hiring an expert to tell you what to do, and then you just do it. And while I do agree that it's helpful to have somebody who is an expert in health and fitness on your team, I don't believe that you should just assume that you'll blindly follow their recommendations without some input yourself. The thing is that you are the expert on yourself, your life, and your capacity. In order for us to successfully build and implement a plan, we have to consider your needs and desires and capabilities within that plan. So think of it this way. We all know that we should be getting about 7 to 8 hours of sleep. But if I'm working with a parent who has an infant child and I tell them to sleep 8 hours a night uninterrupted, they're probably going to roll their eyes at me. This is an extreme example because I would just hope that a good coach would understand how unrealistic that guidance is for a new parent, but it highlights how important your opportunities and limitations are within this process. That's also not to say that if your coach suggests that you do something that seems impossible, you should roll your eyes and refuse to do it. But rather, this should kick off a greater discussion. If something cannot be incorporated as suggested, then let's explore together why. If there is a personal internal resistance to the change, let's explore that as well. Through this process, our goal is to problem solve and create a plan that does work for you. You will likely be challenged and pushed outside your comfort zone still, but you should feel relatively confident in your ability to execute what is asked of you, even if it is hard to do. And you should also connect with the value that this change is going to bring you. We're not just changing aspects of your life for the sake of doing so. We're not just doing it because a coach said so. We're doing it because it has a direct connection to how you feel and how you want to feel and improving your life as a result of making this change. So, yes, I develop a high level plan based on your goals, your health status, and the levers that will move your needle, because that's what you came to me for. You came to me for clarity and support and help in building a protocol that will actually work. But then together, we will collaborate to translate that plan into your actual life. We will break it down into realistic steps and shape habits into versions that you can do consistently. And we address the mindset narratives that keep tripping you up, because information just isn't enough. You could know exactly what to eat and how to train and still not do it if the story in your head is, if I can't be perfect, it's not worth trying, or I always fall off, or I don't trust myself around X food. My goal is not to make you reliant on me, though I can be a resource for you to lean on. More importantly, I want to solve problems with you and build your autonomy as we go. The whole point is that you don't necessarily need me forever. You learn how to think, how to evaluate, and how to adjust. You get reps at making aligned choices in real life. That's how you become the person who can maintain this even when you don't have a coach to check in with weekly. The third phase is the implementation and support. So implementation is where most people just try to strong arm their way through with willpower, and that's not the move. Instead, we start with the basics and build your foundation. And I don't say basics like they're easy. The basics are often the hardest because they require you to restructure parts of your day and rethink some of your autopilot choices. This might look like establishing a simple meal planning and prepping routines so that way nourishing food is there when you're hungry. It can look like learning how to build a balanced plate both at your home and on the go. We layer in movement and strength building that fit your schedule and your recovery capacity. We consider your stress and find ways to set boundaries, be more efficient, or simply incorporate stress regulation into your day to support your nervous system. We address sleep, whether it's your timing, routine, your environment, because physiology matters. None of this is sexy, but it is the infrastructure that makes your nutrition and training efforts actually deliver results. Then we iterate, we test, we reflect, we adjust. Every week, we look at what you tried, what worked, what didn't, and why. If something went well, can we sustain it? Can we build upon it? If it didn't work well, we do not label it as a failure. We mine it for data because maybe the habit was just too big. Maybe the environment that you were in just made it harder than it needed to be. Maybe the trigger was a certain time of day or a certain emotion. But great, now we know what we need to tweak, and then we'll do so and then try again the next week, and then repeat this reflection process and continue to tweak your process until it sticks. This is also where the support piece is so valuable. With a typical medical model, you see a provider for about 15 to maybe 30 minutes if you're lucky. You get a recommendation and then good luck. There's no ongoing troubleshooting, no support in the messy middle, no accountability that's actually empowering. In coaching, we can work through mindset blocks in real time. We can reframe the scale fluctuations that would normally send you into a spiral. We can notice that you're doing more than you're actually giving yourself credit for. My clients tend to be so hard on themselves, and they find it helpful when I can spot their wins when they're so fixated on their struggles and the process. And sometimes you just need somebody who's on your team who can see your progress when you're caught in the weeds of it all and struggling to see those wins. Growth is not linear. Setbacks aren't proof that you're broken. They're just information that we can use to refine the process. And a coach helps you process that information without shame so that way you can actually keep going. And then phase 4 is going to be the transformation and ultimate ownership over the process. Now, this is my favorite part because this is the part where we shift from I'm following the rules to this is who I am. Yes, we're after a physical transformation. Fat loss, if that's the phase we're in, muscle building, strength, energy, better blood sugar, happier hormones, calmer digestion, whatever it is that you are looking for. Those changes absolutely change your life. How your clothes fit, how you feel in your skin, how you show up at work and with your family. But the inner transformation is often overlooked, and it's also where people light up. You start relating to food differently. You let go of those old diet rules that kept you fearful of food and find more freedom in a balanced approach. You stop beating yourself up over what you see in the mirror because we build up your confidence. And when you feel good inside, you're more likely to perceive yourself as looking good. And when you connect with how the habits that you've been executing are actually what's helping you feel good, then you're more likely to want to do those habits and perform them consistently. Quite honestly, you'll start to miss them. It's kind of like when you go on vacation and you enjoy the indulgence a little bit, but then by the end, you find yourself missing vegetables. The reality is the goal that you want to achieve likely cannot be attained without some kind of inner transformation. You have to step into being a different person with a different mindset to achieve your goals and maintain them. This doesn't mean that you have to ditch your values, break up with your friends, and solely focus on your health, but it does mean that you need to shed the old pieces of you that are holding you back right now to step into the person who has achieved these goals that you're striving for. Through this process, we also build ownership. I can show you the path, but you're ultimately the one walking it. You're ultimately the one who has to actually implement the recommendations, who has to execute the habits, who has to do the hard work. And you're going to become fluent in your own body's language. You might begin to notice how certain foods, maybe stress patterns or sleep changes affect your digestion, your cycle, or your energy. And that awareness gives you levers to pull. It's not about perfection. It's about being in a relationship with your body. So that way you know what it's telling you and you can also support it. And then, of course, there's an educational component to this too. You don't need a health science degree to care for your body well. But you do need to know some of the basics, what macronutrients and micronutrients do for you, how to build portions that match your goals, how fiber supports your gut, when tracking intake is helpful and when it's not, how progressive overload works, why recovery matters. My job is to teach you enough to make you confident in the decisions that you're making without overcomplicating it. The end goal of coaching, like I said earlier, is not to make you reliant on me. It's to give you your health back in a way that you can sustain on your own. It's to transform the way that you live so that way you can maintain what you've built without me. And honestly, it's to create a ripple effect sometimes. A lot of my clients end up modeling these habits for their kids, their partners, their friend groups. Their transformations inspire others around them to transform as well. And that's even more powerful because your influence spreads. Now, I want to highlight a few of the biggest mindset and strategy shifts that I see over and over again, because if you take nothing else from this episode, take these. The first shift is shifting away from restriction towards addition. So most diet strategies are built on the removal of things, whether it's fewer calories, fewer foods, fewer experiences. And that can create short-term weight loss, but it's not what's creating sustainable relationships with food. In coaching, at least in my coaching, we flip that. We build meals that satisfy you. We add protein and fiber. We add produce. We add routines that make nourishment easy. And we also add mindful indulgences in ways that don't require you to fight your own biology with willpower. When you're actually fueled, your cravings feel different. When you know how to build a satisfying plate, you don't necessarily need to white knuckle it. And when you want the thing, whether it's the pizza, the dessert, the cocktail, you can have it and still align with your goals because you're choosing, not reacting. The second shift is that you learn to honor the body that you have, not the imaginary one that can grind forever. My clients are high achieving type A, do more humans. They have learned to power through their symptoms because stopping feels like failure. Honestly, many of my clients, and admittedly sometimes myself, are out here acting like Jason Statham in that movie Crank, where if we slow down or stop, we might combust. If you've had gut issues or you've struggled through fatigue or just generally feeling like shit for years, you've probably just accepted that this is me. This is my reality. In coaching, we work to slow down enough so that way you can listen and respond to your body. We make the connection between stress and gut flares. We tie your cycle symptoms to your training and your nutrition. We build parasympathetic practices that you will actually do. We adjust your training volume when your recovery tanks instead of just layering on more. Doing more is not the same as making progress. Learning how to support your body is how you make progress. The third shift that I typically see is progress over perfection. Black and white thinking kills consistency. What you don't need is perfect weeks. You need good enough reps strung together to change your trajectory. Imagine this being your reality. When you mess up, you don't out the whole day. You course correct, maybe at the next meal. When you miss 2 workouts, you don't necessarily have to do 5 the next week just to make up for it out of guilt. You just simply get back to your plan. When the scale goes up, you don't slash your calories out of fear. You zoom out, you look at the whole picture, you consider different factors that could be contributing to the data changing, and you also look at trends in data over time. And the end result is that you keep going. You don't just pivot off of emotion, but rather logic and reasoning. The people who win aren't necessarily the ones who are perfect. They're the ones who keep moving even when it gets a little bit messy. Let's wrap this episode up with some clear takeaways now. Takeaway 1, coaching is not about just getting a plan. It's about learning to live the plan. The value is in the process. Assess deeply, clarify root causes, build collaboratively, implement with support, iterate, and own the result. Takeaway 2 is going to be sustainable transformation is built on addition, honoring your body, and choosing progress over perfection. If you only take those 3 ideas and apply them for the next 30 days, you will experience change. Takeaway 3 is the best time to get support is when you're tired of cycling through the same 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off pattern. If you recognized yourself in Lynelle's story at the beginning of this episode, You know how to follow the rules, you can grind in short bursts, but you can't seem to maintain, or you're just feeling stuck. This process is exactly what you need. Now, if you're listening to this episode as it drops, I'm excited to say that spots for my coaching are open again. And if you sign up now, you'll also get some Black Friday bonuses to sweeten the deal. I haven't formally announced my Black Friday offers just yet, but if you apply today, I will give you early access. Otherwise, keep your eyes peeled on my Instagram and email list, as I'll be launching those offers Monday, November 24th. Let me leave you with this. You do not need more rules. You need a process that respects your body, your life, and your goals, and teaches you how to actually live that process. That's what coaching is meant to be. It's not glamorous, it's not flashy, it's really practical, and it's personal, and it's powerful. When you do it right, you don't just change your body, you change your relationship with yourself. And that, more than anything, is what makes your results last. That's a wrap for today's episode, and I will catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Anti-Macro Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable and actionable for your own wellness journey. Remember, true transformation comes from consistent, intentional steps forward. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated on all things health and fitness, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode. I release fresh content bi-weekly every Wednesday to keep you inspired and informed. And hey, if you loved what you heard, I'd be thrilled if you could take a moment to share this podcast with a friend or family member who might benefit from it. By sharing it with others, you're helping them on their wellness journey too. Keep striving for progress, not perfection, and I'll catch you next time.